What's up, guys? I am Caleb Giddings, aka Mr. Revolver, and today I'm here to tell you why I don't own an AR-15. And it's very, very simple. AR-15s are boring. Now, when I say that an AR-15 is boring, I'm not saying it's a bad gun. And the fact is that much like we're in the golden age of polymer frame striker fired 9mm pistols, we're also in the golden age of AR-15 rifles. I can literally go and buy a Daniel Defense or an FN or a Colt, and I'm sure someone in the comments is going to be like, oh no, here's like 16 better AR brands that you could have bought. And that's my point, is there are so many good ARs out there that they're boring. If I'll use my duty rifle as an example. I got issued an FN M4, and it has never malfunctioned once. And I don't shoot it that much. I shoot it for duty, so I shoot like 500 rounds a year through it. But I've had that same rifle for like 6 years, so I don't know, 3,000 rounds. That's not bad. It's not a lot. It's not bad. But I don't expect it to because I maintain it, I lubricate it, and I use quality magazines, so with quality ammo. And that's true of all AR-15s, which is why they're boring. If you go and you buy a Daniel Defense and you maintain it and you lubricate it and use quality ammo and quality magazines, there's a very reasonable chance that the gun will never fail to complete the cycle of operations, and it will just run and run and run and run forever. And that's not very interesting unless you're into ARs. And this is the caveat, because you might believe that what I'm saying is unreliable guns are interesting. And that's not true either. Unreliable guns are just a huge pain in the ass and they're annoying. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm not into ARs. And because I'm not into them, because I find them sort of boring to shoot, boring to use, boring to operate, there's no real, I don't get the same enjoyment from messing around with them that people who love ARs do. Now, that's not to say I don't own any. Although I don't own any 5.56 or 223 AR-15s. I actually own two AR pattern guns, one of which is this Aero Precision EPC-9, which a lot of people would call an AR-9 because it is an AR platform gun chambered in 9mm. This one is a legal short-barreled rifle, which means I can do this all I want and I'm not going to prison. But this gun's interesting. And why is this gun interesting and a 5.56 AR isn't? That's a very good question that I don't actually have an answer to. My theory that I surmise in my brains is that this gun's interesting to me because what I can use this gun for are the things that interest me, right? So I've shot like 2 3-gun matches and they were fine. But the complexity of 3-gun and dealing with the shotgun manipulations and all of that was never really something that interested me. Meanwhile, I've shot a ton of USPSA and IDPA and Steel Challenge matches, and those matches interest me. USPSA is still interesting. Steel Challenge is still interesting, and IDPA is still interesting. IDPA has actually gotten more interesting because in recent years the sport's gotten better than it used to be when I started, so that's cool. And that gun I can use for all of those. I can use my other AR for it too, because that one's also an AR-9 Aero Precision EPC. It's just got a 16-inch barrel so that I don't have to ask the ATF pretty please for permission to take it out of the state if I want to go shoot a match with it. So what I'm saying here isn't that the M4 or the AR-15 is bad. I don't own one. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's bad. I think it's the best service rifle we've ever had in the military because it's so boring. It's like if you had a fleet of cars that you were going to use for reliable transportation for hundreds of people, you wouldn't go buy interesting cars. Lamborghinis are interesting. You go buy Toyota Corollas because Corollas are reliable and easy to maintain and work for tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and hundreds of thousands of miles. And that's why we have the M4 in the military, because it's reliable and it's easy to maintain and it works for tens of thousands of rounds. It is the best service rifle we've ever had. I just think it's boring. And I don't really like shooting it. I shoot Expert every year. I shot Expert on the Army Qual the one time I got to shoot that. It's, red dot out to 300 yards. It's not hard. The gun is so good, it's boring to shoot. And that is kind of the thing, is because I'm not in doing run and gun carbine matches, which I may actually enjoy if I did them. I don't really have a use for an AR-15. I don't live in a place where it makes sense for home defense. And when I did live in a place where a long gun made sense for home defense, I used a Beretta 1301. I do have a rifle chambered in 5.56. It's a Ruger American Ranch, well, 223. It's a Ruger American Ranch in 223 that takes AR magazines. That gun's interesting because I really like manually operated guns, which is why I have so many revolvers. They're interesting. Manually operated rifles are interesting. Yeah, but ARs aren't. Sorry, guys. AR-15s, they're just kind of boring. If you love them, great. I'm not saying that you shouldn't love them because boring might be the most subjective criticism of a gun I've ever laid at it. But if you just hand me, honestly, like even the super cool ones, like the Geissele URGI, oh cool, it's a really good AR-15. It's like, here's a really good. The Toyota analogy is apt here because Toyota makes like a V6 300 plus horsepower Camry that looks really good. It's a really good Camry. It's not really interesting. It is a good Camry though. It's like the best Camry. Like the URGI is a really good AR, but it's not an interesting AR. And I don't know. Well, I do know what it would take to make an AR interesting. Is if you make it an SBR and shrink it down to pistol size. Or I will say this: the one type of AR that I do find interesting are full auto ARs because I find full auto interesting, and like that's pretty fun. My burst issued M4 isn't as cool as the M4A1 that I'm theoretically getting sometime soon. But anyway, so how do you make an AR interesting to me? Make it a 9mm, probably. I like 9mm. I love PCCs. I love PCCs so much that it's funny, PCC has gone through a really weird thing. Like in the late 90s, early 2000s, pistol caliber carbines were super hot because police wanted patrol rifles that shared ammo and mags with their duty pistols to put in cop cars, right? For longer standoff shots and things like that, whatever. What ended up happening was everybody just ended up giving them M4s instead, which made more sense because that's the smart thing to do. But way back in like 2005, I want to say, I had the OG Ruger PCC. It was the Ruger PC9, I think was the name of it. I took the Ruger P Series mags. It kind of looked like the PCC that they have now, or a scaled up 1022. That gun was great, and I had that back before pistol caliber carbines were cool. Then they weren't cool for a really long time because everyone was like, we don't need submachine guns anymore. Everybody's getting ARs, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And now they're cool again, mostly thanks to competition shooting. So this, to me, is a cool AR. It's not an AR-15 though. I mean, it's even not even technically an AR-9. AR-9 is actually a specific model of gun that this is not. But it is pretty interesting. I'm Caleb Giddings. Thanks for watching.